I'll move my hand.
I want to welcome the members of the community that are joining us online, and I want to thank for our participants and contestants today in The Price is Right. No, we do have the honor of having Mr. Fox, current principal at Slurry School, and also Ms. Leva, which is our assistant principal, current assistant principal at Intermediate School. And the purpose of today is to give our candidates the opportunity to continue to showcase their 3-year plan. All of the answers that you respond today, they were submitted via internet from the members of the community and staff. Your responses will be timed, and Ms. Kinsey will give you the opportunity as our facilitator to give you more instructions on that. I want to wish you both the best, and I want you to be thorough with your answers, be very specific. Our panels, they do have a rubric that they're going to be based on the category that they ask. They will be checking, well, what is your plan? And most importantly, how is part of your 3-year plan in the categories that they will be asking you. Feel free to ask, to reiterate the question, but most importantly, I want you to be clear, and I want you to connect with the audience before us, as well as the audience out in the community. I'm very proud of all of you for getting into this point, and I want to ask our panel, I want to thank our panel members, we have parents, teachers, and board member, for continuing with the process and finding out their responses. Your responses today will be used as part of your interview process and will be scored. Let's go ahead and get started at this point. I'm going to introduce our facilitator for today, Ms. Kinsey, which is supporting with the entire process. Ms. Kinsey is our district intervention math coach that has been supporting throughout the entire process. Ms. Kinsey, thank you for your support, and you're up.
All right, so the way that this is going to go is we have 11 questions. I'm going to stand here so that y'all both can see me. We have 11 questions that were submitted through a Google form from staff, community members, families. I don't know, it didn't collect their email information. So we have 11 questions. What I will do is I will ask the question, and then we will alternate who answers the question first to be as equitable as humanly possible. Because there are 11, there is a little bit of, he's trying to tell me how to hold the microphone. Okay, sorry, I don't speak into microphones. So there are 11 questions, so we'll go back and forth. You will have 2 minutes to respond. We will time your response, so please try to be aware of your time. Both of you have writing utensils and paper there as well, so you can take notes. Our panel here, while we only have 4 of our 9 original panel members here in person, the other 5 will be either joining us virtually or they will watch afterwards to complete the panel. Then there will be a discussion tomorrow where they will make their final recommendation. As you both know, any recommendation that the committee recommends will go to the school board and they will have the final say. So, all right, are we ready to begin?
Yes.
Are we ready, y'all? All right, here we go. So, let me find a better place to stand, because I have to have a timer. All right, we are going to start with Ms. Leva. So I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think, because individual think time is important. And then we will ask Ms. Leva to respond first. All right, so the first question is, what are your core values as an educator?
Details when we start.
All right, Ms. Leva, to you first.
So the core values as an educator, I'm going to start with the first one, graciousness, being grateful, being thankful for the place we are in our lives. And when I was in the classroom, I tried to be gracious and practiced being gracious with my students, I plan on doing the same thing as an administrator. I believe that being thankful and being gracious in every aspect of our work is important. The second aspect, or the second trait I would consider, is being transparent as much as possible. Obviously, as an administrator, there's information that cannot be shared, but being transparent in as much as we possibly can. And the last one would be being, I don't know if this is like modeling, being a model for the expectation, using the graciousness, using the transparency, modeling that for teachers as an expectation in the school. Do I need to use the 2 minutes?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Leighton. Mr. Fox, same question to you. What are your core values as an educator?
Okay, well, thank you all for coming and listening to the two of us. Pretty straightforward. My core values are everyone can learn, and everyone wants to learn. And it's from birth until your last breath. So I think that when we go into our classrooms, into our schools, into our communities, into our workplace, we have to remember that truly human nature is they want to learn. So the core value is understand that, work hard in order to hit multiple different types of learners, and that's young and old alike. A plan to do that is to offer different types of curriculum, to offer different types, menu if you will, of project completion. Another core value is relationships and trust. If the students, if the community, if your teaching staff, if the stakeholders of the district don't feel that they can trust you, or that you trust yourself in making the right decisions, we're going to have a tough time building the right relationships. And relationships are the core element of learning. So as far as transparency goes, I think it's an open line of communication. Do what you say what you do, walk the walk, talk the talk, and the other cliches I can think of, but the bottom line is be open, be available, have multiple ways to connect with the people you need to connect with via email, via your cell phone, or your office phone. Make sure you make callbacks. So my core values in conclusion are trust, relationship building, and knowing in your heart that all individuals want to learn, they want to succeed, and they want to be celebrated for that, even if that is small. Thank you.
Perfect timing. That was like 2 minutes on the dot. So we are going back to you for this one, Mr. Fox. Both of y'all mentioned communication, so the follow-up question is, effective communication is crucial for principal. How would you communicate and connect with staff, parents, and students about the challenges the school faces and the steps being taken to address them? So again, I will give you 30 seconds, and then we'll come to you first, Mr. Fox.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Fox, first question to you.
Okay, well, the value of communication is not just in the workplace, it's not just in school, it's not just in the classroom. It is something that as humans that we do consistently and hopefully constantly. But in the school environment, your communication has to be forthright. It has to be genuine, truthful. The person making that communication, the giver of the communication, needs to be accountable for what they say, what they do. Visible, visible, visible. Be out there, be about, be available for questions. But one of the most important things, I believe, with communication is that it has to be constant, ongoing, and accurate. How we would do this in the school is by, again, being visible, being in classrooms, walking the campus, talking to people, meeting them, building a relationship with them, so when you do have the hard conversations, they're just a little bit easier. Again, newsletters, Facebook posts, weekly reminders or Monday morning agendas, those are all great, but they're not worth much more than the paper they're written on or the web page you're sitting on if you are not out in the community, in the school, giving your expectations, expecting the same from others, and being accountable. And let's not forget nonverbal. Over 80% of communication is nonverbal. So you can't say, I really like you, and have an ugly frown on your face. So your actions and words need to match.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Leyva, again, the question is, effective communication is crucial for principal. How would you communicate and connect with staff, parents, and students about the challenges the school faces and the steps being taken to address them?
So, the different forms of communication could be written, verbal, meaning in person, and examples of written are things such as memos, newsletters, emails, and also, new in our world today is social media. I don't know if we consider that virtual or if we consider it written. I consider it a little bit of both, but using all of our available communication modalities is very important. However, another important piece is understanding when something needs to be done written and when something needs to be done in person. There are types of communication that sometimes require a face-to-face conversation with somebody because they need to see the sincerity in your face. If it's, a negative issue, if it's something great, they need to see the happiness on your face. It's not always communicated written. So I believe that knowing the difference between the two of them is important. Making sure that we are sharing information with the community is very important. It's something that I've learned from my mentor. I am here serving a community. Therefore, the open lines of communication have to be there. Parents need to be able to ask questions. Does it mean that they have easy access 24 hours a day? No, but they do need to know when we are available for them because we are here serving the children of this community. And the best way to do that is to keep an open line. It's what we do as teachers, making those contacts with parents. Hey, we're a team, let's do this together. Now this is on a bigger level. Communicating with the parents of the majority of the students and being available, and then being able to have those communications with staff when things need to be discussed. Again, whether they are something that needs to be worked on or something that they can continue to do.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. So again, third question, Ms. Leyva, this one will go to you first. You will have 30 seconds to think about it. The question is, as the principal, what action or actions would you take to help create a pathway to Tohono Community College, higher education, and careers? And what does this look like within your 3-year plan?
I'm sorry, you got cut off. So, actions for higher education.
I'll reread the question. As the principal, what action or actions would you take to help create a pathway to Tohono Community College, higher education, and career? What does this look like in your 3-year plan? All right, Ms. Leyva, your time starts now.
Okay. So the actions of a principal at a secondary school, those lines of communication, like I said earlier, need to be open with the community college. Our students need to understand that there is a line directly from high school to college to their life afterwards, whatever it is they want to do afterwards. Do they want to continue their education at a higher level, 4-year college? Do they want to take different classes at TOCC? but students need to understand that there is a direct line. And how does that happen? It happens by having a communication with TOCC. Creating a plan. I'm not sure exactly what the classes are that are available, but the best way to find out is to go to the TOCC college and find out what classes can our students take. So creating that open line of communication, being a lot more involved with TOCC, because the reality is that's where our students are going to decide what they do with the rest of their lives. So we help them at the secondary find their passion, get ready for college, and then they move on from there. Having that open line of communication would be my final answer.
Thank you, Ms. Leiva. Mr. Fox, the question again is, as the principal, what action or actions would you take to help create a pathway to Von Otham Community College, higher education, and careers? What does it look like in your 3-year plan?
Well, the district already has a great marriage with TOCC. I've been a part of a few of the meetings that we're trying to push with TOCC, and I think that the secondary campus and mine, we need to figure out how to blow up dual enrollment in the 9th grade, started in the 9th grade. There's many benefits that come with that, with staffing of classes, but most of all, it gets them into a college class that they can understand, that they can see success in. So I think we have to get dual enrollment firing on all cylinders. Edgenuity is a great opportunity for them to see how an online program works, because many of our students are going to be going online for college. Many of our students in the very near future are going to be going online for high school. That's the 21st century classroom. So we have to get them familiar with that type of platform, whether it be Canvas, Edgenuity, or Blackboard. Field experiences, get these kids out of the school. Get them to the mines. Get them to U of A, get them to Bangor, Chase Field. Get them to where they can see what other people are doing for a living, and all the just doors that are open for them. And I think this is something that I didn't get to do in high school, but I know my daughter did. Internships, externship, call it what you like, ride along. She spent 6 weeks at an equestrian veterinary center, and she got credit for that. I think that we have enough resources in this nation that our kids can TOPD, TOFD, TOUA, and all the other opportunities that they have right here within their district to go and experience what it might be like to do that for a day. So I think job shadowing, dual enrollment, edgenuity,
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
field trips that have meaning.
All right, Mr. Fox, this one again is coming to you first. And so this question is, what is non-negotiable student behavior for you?
Student behavior?
Non-negotiable student behavior. Your 30 seconds to think starts now. All right, Mr. Fox, your time starts now.
Okay, so my first non-negotiable with regards to student behaviors, you gotta do something. If you're sitting in class, you have to do something. If you choose to maybe not want to do your social studies, well then the instructor, the principal, whoever's monitoring needs to go and redirect that young person and find something for them to do. You don't want to read about George Washington? Draw me a picture on what you know about George Washington. But keep them doing something and active, because that will also help with our discipline, and it will help with our students working towards something. As far as non-negotiables, short of bringing school threat or major bodily harm on individuals on the campus, we're human beings and we're going to make mistakes. So to have a non-negotiable is kind of a very tight rope. 3 strikes and you're out is a very, very slippery slope when we know we're going to make mistakes. We're people, our children, our students are going to make mistakes. So the one non-negotiable is be safe and secure in our environment. And for lack of better terms, it's worked for 2 years, just be cool. If you run your life and our students get the idea that I'm not there to really be a pain in the neck. I'm here to learn, and I'm just here to be nice, be cool. Be cool work because it resonated with our students. But just be a kind, nice person. So non-negotiables, I don't want to say that's a bridge we cross when we get there, because there are some things obviously a law enforcement has to come in and do. But I don't want to lose students. I don't want to expel. I don't want to suspend for long term for something that we need to work on an intervention with them. So the non-negotiable is you will go to whatever intervention we feel fit is for the disciplinary infraction that you made.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Leyva, to you, what is non-negotiable student behavior?
Non-negotiable student behavior is first and foremost, students need to understand that by stepping on our campus, they need to be an active participant in their education, in their learning. They have to be. What that looks like for each one of them is why we have teachers in the classroom, so that they can get to know their students. So that would be the first non-negotiable. You are here to learn. Maybe you don't learn like everyone else. Let's figure out what your learning process looks like. However, when we look at the school as a whole, the job of everyone, or all of those adults on that campus, is that everyone needs to be safe at all times. So that means that for a secondary campus with older students, there are 3 non-negotiables that I think need to be in place. No fighting. If you put your hands on someone else, that's a non-negotiable. Can we talk about 3 strikes and then you're out? Sure, but the first time we're having a conversation, and that is a non-negotiable. We do not put our hands on anyone else. The second one would be drugs. We know that this is the real life and students are exposed to this. The reality is you cannot bring it on campus, again, because our #1 priority is keeping these students safe. And finally, bullying. It's a huge thing right now. Having a conversation with students about what bullying is and what it is not. And then making sure that we follow the process and procedures and that there are systems in place so that we can address those issues if and when they come up. But my non-negotiable for #1 is always going to be, you are here as a learner, let's figure out what that looks like for you. And then the 3 things you cannot do while you're here is fight, bring drugs on campus, or bully anyone else.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. Ms. Leyva, this question will come to you first. What is your vision for the secondary campus? Share one example of how this will be done or how this vision will be met through your 3-year plan. Your 30 seconds to think starts now. Ms. Leyva, to you first.
Okay. My vision for the secondary campus would be, first and foremost, creating a cohesive team of adults. Because we cannot support our students if we are not a team. And so my expertise is in building relationships. I can sit back and get to know people and then work really well with them based on those observations. So my vision would be to create a cohesive team that supports all the students, starting with the leadership team. We need to be strong. We don't always have to get along. We don't always have to like each other. But as long as our goal is our vision and mission, that is to help our students move forward, then that's where we need to focus on. So my ideal vision would be to understand what we are working towards and keep that as our North Star, so to speak, and then make sure that everyone is pointing in that same direction. So that, again, if we don't all get along, we don't all see things the same way, we still have the same vision and mission of moving our students towards their success.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. Mr. Fox, to you, what is your vision for the secondary campus? Share one example of how this will be done or how this vision will be seen through in your 3-year plan.
Okay, well, we got a few visions going on. I'm quite sure Ms. Leyva and myself do. Strong leadership is obviously one of them. My vision for secondary campus, specifically teaching them in the middle school and moving them into the high schools, to not have to worry about gaining credits, about recovering credits. We can do this. We can have students ahead in credits as opposed to below in credits by making some kind of drastic changes. For example, in a social studies course, we could do a social studies course with 50 students in a large room on Edgenuity where they get to work at their own pace. Little caveat, we've seen this done very successfully in the very short past. But get these guys motivated, get them moving, get them in those dual credit classes so that we do not have to worry about where these students are when they're approaching their senior year. With that being said, their scheduling has to be different for the ones that are currently there, and they may be a junior, but they have yet to do or successfully pass ELA 9A, say. Well, they shouldn't be in a junior level class if they still haven't completed a freshman, sophomore level. So the schedules, my vision is a schedule that is geared towards every individual student, and that will make it so that they know exactly where they are and there's no surprises throughout any of their high school careers.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. This one will come to you first. Describe your approach to fostering a positive, respectful, and inclusive school culture. What values do you believe are essential for creating such an environment? Your 30 seconds starts now. All right, Mr. Fox, your time starts now.
Okay, so in order to maintain or to establish a positive, inclusive learning environment, it starts with the principal. And this could be one of your, going back to non-negotiables, it's we're a positive group. We celebrate the wins, no matter how big or small they are, and we fix the stumbles. And we do that in a more quiet method. But again, it starts at top, the positive attitude, the enthusiasm. It has to start at 7 o'clock or whatever time that principal chooses to get there, and it doesn't end until they go to sleep because they may talk to someone on the phone and they still have to stay positive. Inclusion, that we just need to make sure that we plan strategically to have all our stakeholders, all our students involved in some form of activity where everybody has a chance to take part and to excel, whether that be lunchtime foosball, whether that be push-ins to classrooms. The bottom line is that I right now have students in my school that range from 6th grade to doing statistics 2. They're all in the same room. They all feel like they're included as opposed to excluded, and they all feed off of each other's positive attitudes. So when the adults and the leadership has positive attitudes and includes, practices what they preach, no wise guy remarks, no trying, no cliques, no teams. There's one team, and that's secondary campus. So positivity starts with and ends with the school administrator, what they portray every single day.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Leyva, again, the question is, describe your approach to fostering a positive, respectful, and inclusive school culture? What values do you believe are essential for creating such an environment? Your time starts now.
So an approach to a positive environment at the secondary, relative to where we are here, where I am at the intermediate, the secondary is a large campus. Here I have 16 teachers. At the secondary, there's many more than 16 teachers. So thinking that I'm going to get along with everyone and that we're always going to see eye to eye is not realistic. However, if we create a goal that everything we're doing is for the same reason and we're all working towards it, maybe we all have a different idea of how to get there, but as long as we are working towards the same vision and mission, which is to help our students be successful, that's where I would start. And how do I build that? I build that by being honest and transparent. Again, an administrator can't share all the information, but when they can, they should, because it leaves questions that people want answered, and if I can answer it to the best of my ability and sort of stop that at the beginning, that would be one way. Again, you're going to hear me mention this over and over, having grace. We need to have grace for each other. We're all human beings. We all make mistakes. However, when something does need to be addressed, I am not afraid to go address it. In the manner that I address it is going to depend on the person that I'm talking to, because I'm going to allow myself the opportunity to get to know everyone, and it won't be 100% perfect every single time, but as long as the team and I know that that's what we're working towards, those are the values that I'm going to bring. Again, always keeping our vision and mission in mind. What are we here for? What are we doing? And how are we all going to get there together?
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. This question will come back to you. How do you plan to integrate Himmatha into daily school life? So again, you'll have 30 seconds to think. All right, Ms. Leyva, your time starts now.
Okay, so in order to integrate HimDog into our daily school life, the first thing I would do is go to the experts. I did not grow up here. I know some of the language, but if I'm listening to a conversation, I can grasp pieces of it. So the first thing I would do is go to the experts. What are some things that we can do in our daily lives that will show our students that they are respected, they are loved? One of the things that I have learned since I've been here is greetings. Asking teachers to learn greetings so that they can greet them at the door. We already want teachers to greet students at the door. Let's do it in their language so that they can see it's not easy to learn another language, but look, we're willing to do it. So if we're willing to take that step, we want you to take that step. That's taking HimDog and putting it into our everyday culture. And again, I know some, I don't know enough, and I would not feel comfortable addressing those issues without the support of someone in the community, whether that be our culture teachers at the secondary, whether it be members of the community that can help us understand it better, but using the resources that we have available to us so that our students can feel comfortable every single day and be proud of who they are, because eventually that's what we want. We want them to understand that who they are is someone to be proud of and to be proud about. So, asking the experts.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. Mr. Fox, again, the question is, how do you plan to integrate Himmatha into daily school life? Your time starts now.
Okay, I think we need to put a trust in our Himmatha teachers. I think as Ms. Leyva alluded to, we're kind of greenhorns at this. So we need to get in there. We need to take advantage of what our students get to take advantage of as well. I do believe that we need to have extracurricular events, stuff outside of school that brings the elders of our community, the professionals of our community onto the campus, and they in turn can give lectures aren't fun, but they can give a presentation on something close to them. Because when it's close to them, they're gonna have a lot easier time portraying it to the crowd. Language and food. Language and food. We have in the past, I've learned what chuma is. I would have never known. I even harvested it. In the past, we've got to make, forgive me, you folks, I call them tortillas still, but they call them something different. Chuma? Chimit. I was close. But I think that's where we need to go with this. The kids get a big kick it when I say, oige. That's one of the learns. I think it's right. I'm not even sure, but they will correct me every single time. Every time I call them a komchut, they correct me every single time. They take pride in their culture, whether they know it or not. So it's our job as a district, our job as a community to always heighten that, always make them aware and proud of what they've come from, where they've come from. So food, drink, and fun. That's how I think. Drink meaning Dr. Pepper and root beer. And again, really hitting our culture classes and trusting the professionals, the folks that know the culture the best to teach it.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. This question will come to you again. You'll have 30 seconds to think. The question is, how do you plan to ensure that high-quality instruction is happening in all classrooms on a daily basis? All right, Mr. Fox, your time starts now.
Okay, well, I think first and foremost is visit, be in the classrooms. Be where you need to be as an instructional leader and see what actually is going on. And these are unplanned visits, these are pop-ins. Pop-ins are, research shows they're the most successful way to observe a teacher. You get the real deal. So visits. Listen to your students, what they have to say. They are essentially our product, they are essentially our customer in this business. So we need to listen to them. So put surveys out. How do you think you feel? How does it feel to be in so-and-so's class, in this class? Listen to the word on the street. Listen to what's being said in the cafeterias, on the fields, everywhere but necessarily in the classroom. I think that you can see by how instruction is going by short cycle assessments, by our benchmarks. How many grades are being put into Synergy each week? If someone's putting 1 or 2 grades in, well, how much instruction and how much monitoring is really going on in that? There should be 3 to 4 grades put into Synergy every week by every instructor. And that's open for the parents to see, that's open for the administration to see, and the district to see. So we ensure good instruction by going back to the communicating and the modeling and having the expectations that this is what we need to see as the professional adult in the room. So just to wrap it up, because I think I blurred a bunch of stuff together. Number one thing is be in the classrooms and be visible. Have the relationship built with your customers, our students, that they can come to you and feel confident that what you tell them is a safe place and that you will advocate on their behalf. And if you find their behalf isn't worth advocating, well, then that's a whole nother conversation. And it evolves into something else. But the bottom line is it comes all right back around. And if we have happy kids, happy teachers, happy principal, happy boss.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Leyva, again, the question is, how do you plan to ensure that high-quality instruction is happening in all classrooms on a daily basis? Your time starts now.
First and foremost, modeling it through professional development. If I expect the teachers to have lesson plans in their class, to have agendas in their class, then I should probably be modeling it. The team and I, should be modeling it in professional development. And then, like Mr. Fox said, being visible in the classrooms. you can't know what's happening in the classroom if you're not in the classrooms. It's not realistic to assume that we can be in there every single day, but every single day you can be in 1 or 2 classrooms, and you can follow up with the teachers. The other thing that I would suggest, or that is imperative, not a suggestion, it is imperative, is creating systems for teachers with lesson planning. What does it look like? When an administrator goes in and looks at your lesson plans, what are they looking for? What are we looking for in the classroom versus what your lesson plan looks like? Making sure that they understand what those steps are and what that system is. And then using data effectively in PLCs so that teachers can plan effectively for the following week. Because if we just continue, and this is very typical in education, I did it myself, we just plow right on through to the next standard because we have a scope and sequence, we have a curriculum map. So do teachers understand that they can look at the curriculum map and make it and adjust it so that it's realistic for them and their students? So those systems need to be in place. So when I talk about systems, I'm talking about what does the leadership team have in place with curriculum mapping, with lesson planning, with observation, feedback cycles, so that teachers understand exactly what our students need to be learning.
Thank you, Ms. Leva. This question will come to you first. What is your view of an effective secondary admin team when it comes to developing healthy relationships with students and staff? Again, you'll have 30 seconds, which starts now. All right, Ms. Leva, your time starts now.
So my view of healthy relationships with students and staff is how do I explain this? There's a huge difference between equitable and equity. And it all depends on the perception of the person that's looking at it. So in order for people to understand the healthy relationships, it has to do with the perception that other people have. What I mean by that, for example, is if someone feels that the principal or a teacher is being more favorable to one student, why is that? Where is that coming from? Again, it's the perception that's being seen. So in developing relationships with both staff and students, I always want to keep in mind the perception. Does it look like I'm favoring this student and why? Or does it look like I'm treating this other student negatively every single time we have an interaction? So it really starts with who I am and reflecting on myself and making sure that every interaction I have with every person I encounter on a daily basis is as positive as can be, and again, is perceived by others as being healthy and being equitable or equal, as however the other person wants to see it.
Thank you, Ms. Leva. Again, Mr. Fox, the question is, what is your view of an effective secondary admin team when it comes to developing healthy relationships with students and staff? Your time starts now.
I think the admin team needs to be genuine. They need to be on the same page. We don't have the same personalities, and that's to be expected, and that's to be really enjoyed, because we don't want to be static. But we have to be on the same page, that we are a student-centered district, we are a student-centered campus. Everything we do is to benefit our students. And equitability is very essential. Sometimes someone in the flock needs a little more assistance than someone else. That doesn't mean that we're treating this person better. That means we are looking and knowing where we can best apply what we need. I think that we all have to, again, have that common goal that all people, students, they want to learn, they want to be accepted, and they want to be told, good job. We all want that. So an effective leadership team goes around and sees all the good jobs and says, good job, hey, I like that you did that. Thank you for holding the door for everybody. The little tiny things that may fall away, once noticed, will overwhelm some of the other deals. So an effective admin team is one that notices, one that's there, one that's consistent, but one that's not the same. We're not going to be the same 5 or 6 human beings, and we should be allowed our individuality as well, as long as we do it in an honest, caring, and genuine manner, to where we are definitely 100% unarguably putting the students' needs first. And sometimes those needs have nothing to do with academics, as we all know in this room. You can't get to the academics until you get through some of the other stuff that these unfortunate situations some of our kids have seen. So an effective leadership team is essentially one that cares and just does the right thing for people.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. This one's again coming to you first. And the question is, how would you ensure that students have the support they need to stay motivated, to overcome challenges, and to persevere in the face of obstacles? Your 30 seconds to think starts now. All right, Mr. Fox, your time starts now.
Do you mind reading it one more time?
Sure can.
Thank you.
How would you ensure that students have the support they need to stay motivated, overcome challenges, and persevere in the face of obstacles?
They need an adult in their corner. They need someone on that campus that's a trusted adult. It may be the principal, it may be the groundskeeper. It doesn't really matter. They just need to have a relationship with at least one person that, hopefully more than one, but at least one person that is a trusted adult. We need to listen. That's what us adults, we need to do for our students. We need to listen to them, we need to hear them, and then when we do expound all of our knowledge and wisdom over the last 50 some odd years that at least one of us has had, we have to remember who we're speaking to and making sure that we're addressing the needs that they need addressed. So I would ensure that we have a healthy environment, a trusted environment, by making sure those students feel comfortable speaking to someone. We have to find the right people that can help solve whatever the issue may be that they're experiencing at that point. That'll do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Leyva, again, the question is, how would you ensure that students have the support they need to stay motivated, overcome challenges, and persevere in the face of obstacles? Your time starts now.
So the first thing I would do is I would make sure that I access the resources that are available to our students, starting with counselors, behavior specialists, teachers. Sometimes it's, people that you don't even think about. Creating a system that students are able to find someone, an adult, like Mr. Fox said, on campus that they feel comfortable with. Just because I was their English teacher didn't necessarily mean that they felt comfortable coming to me. So making sure that we create a system where students are going to the people that they feel comfortable with. One of those ways is by training teachers on social emotional, TBRI, so that teachers understand you're not expected to be an expert in counseling, but we are expecting for you to be able to have the resources to guide the student to find the support that they need. So, it starts with the system. It starts with the leadership team that models this, and then moves on to working with the teachers so that students are able to recognize who on the campus they have created a relationship with. It could be be one of the monitors, it could be a custodian, it could be one of the assistant principals. Whoever it is, allowing students the grace to be able to access those supports when they need them.
Thank you, Ms. Leva. Our final question here, again, it will go to Ms. Leva first, is what is your plan for recruiting and hiring teachers that are highly qualified? So you have 30 seconds. All right, Ms. Leva, your time starts now.
Okay, so the plan for recruiting and hiring teachers starts with looking in the community, working with TOCC, working with Pima Community College, working with the University of Arizona, creating those relationships. I'm a huge proponent of finding people that are right for the job based on their characteristics, on being able to learn. One of the things that I have learned in my career as an educator from all of the leaders that I've worked with is there are things that I can teach you as a person on how to teach in the classroom, but there are things that I can't teach you that you bring with you. Making contact with students, being able to build those relationships. Those are things that I can find sources or resources to help people be better at, but those are the characteristics that they bring with them. So how do we find these people? Working with the community, working with TOCC, with the University of Arizona, and help get the right people on the track for being teachers so that they can be here to help support our students. Going out and doing job fairs, using social media, those things sometimes sound like, oh, well, those are easy answers, but that's really where we are in today's day and age, using social media so we can get far and large out into the rest of the country and find people that would be interested in working in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Leva. Mr. Fox, the question comes to you next. What is your plan for recruiting and hiring teachers that are highly qualified? Your time starts now.
I think the first part of that plan is to concentrate on retention of the teachers that we currently have as well. But as far as recruiting the new ones, Ms. Leva said it pretty articulately. Hit the universities, hit the colleges. Get out there. But more importantly, we need to market our district. We have the systems that are in place. We have so many resources. I've been in 3 different school districts within the last 20 years. And this school district, with the beyond textbooks, planning is done. Scope and sequence is done. These are things we have to sell people coming to us, is that we have ways to make you a much more effective teacher and take you out of all the legwork. Selfishly, I'm going to go hit up my friends in TUSD Sunnyside and Vail. I've been already approached, but at my campus, of course I don't have any spots to put anyone, but I've already said, does Bobby Cufer have anything? Because in conversations going out and hanging with my friends that are also educators, I tell them how great it is down here. And they say, doesn't the ride suck? And I say, no, it's beautiful. Try it one day. So there's already been some interest at a very grassroots level that personally I would try to exploit, because we have those connections within our communities, and they're just looking for a place to call home because they're not feeling it in some of these big gigantic districts that Tucson has to offer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fox. So at this time, we will open for questions for all of our wonderful audience members here. Sorry if you're joining in online, there's no place where you can leave it in the chat. But if you are here in person and you would like to ask a question of both of our candidates, for equity's sake, you do have to ask and pose the question to both candidates, but the structure will be the same. So if any of our committee members or audience members has a question, come grab this mic, or I'll bring it to you, either way. Or I'll meet you in the middle. Oh, you did it. All right. Gonna make them ask the question.
There you go.
Hello. How would you create partnerships between the other schools in the district?
Wait, hold on, 30 seconds.
Ladies first.
Wait, hold
Would
on,
you like-
30 seconds.
Oh, my
We're
bad.
gonna
Sorry.
continue. We're gonna continue the same structure.
Yes,
So,
that's
Mr.
right.
Fox, we will have 30 seconds, starting now.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Fox, your time starts now.
Okay, so I think how we can incorporate and get a more communal feeling amongst all our campuses together would be a good example. Mrs. Begay-Lewis is what we've done here. We have students that come over and read to some of Ms. Begay-Lewis's students. She always invites us to do things because of the proximity thing. But at the secondary campus, I don't know if there is yet. If there's not, there should be a freshman academy and senior mentors, so that the freshmen aren't overwhelmed when they get there, and then they have a group of seniors, kind of like a big brother, big sister type thing, that can help them navigate through the obstacles. I think that our community events are very, very successful at bringing us all together, but possibly planning those as less as a campus and more as a RCA team, so that you have primary, intermediate, all accelerated, and be at the secondary campus working cohesively together. So I think that it's something that's very valuable, and I do think it's very feasible to do if we stick our heads together and make a schedule of how we want to see this.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Again, Ms. Leyva, the question was, and I might be paraphrasing, so forgive me here, how would you create partnerships with the other schools in the district?
Well, I hate to brag, but I already have a relationship with the intermediate, so I just have to work on the primary. Just kidding. I'm going to follow suit with what Mr. Fox mentioned about RCA. I believe that RCA has been created at the school where it started at to be able to build those relationships with students and staff who don't see each other on a day-to-day basis. So I believe that here at in our district, using RCA to our benefit to create those linear relationships. The students at the primary, with the students at the intermediate, with the students at the secondary, all Isabindi, Altruismo, what are the others? Amistad and Revere. So that students, if we as a leadership team create that sort of relationship, that fun banter between us, then students will see it. So the best way is to just start building those relationships, reaching out. They're not going to know that we want to build those relationships just by seeing each other, at meetings once a month. It's by reaching out and creating those relationships, and then together creating events that allow those relationships with students and community to be able to be built.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. I believe Mr. Buendia, President Buendia, has a question. And Ms. Leyva, this one will come to you first. We'll do the same structure. You'll have 30 seconds if his mic is live. I don't know. I'm not that.
You can have mine.
Thank you both very much for the afternoon. I really appreciate it. One of the questions that I had, and I think you guys kind of addressed it a little bit, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of do that publicly now. I'd like to hear what your message would be to the Tohono O'odham Nation, especially because you'll be taking one of the I feel like a great beacon from the school district and at the helm, which is the Bob Curie High School, Bob Curie Middle School, what that means to you as far as, you know, really rebranding and marketing that campus in a way that I feel like both of you could do very well. But what would your message be to get across, understanding though that it needs to be very clear, understandable, comprehensive, and all of those good things, because you have many grandparents raising kids, all of those generational differences. So I kind of want to hear how you would address that should you be selected. Thank you.
Your 30 seconds starts now. All right, Ms. Leyva, your time starts now.
Okay. So my message to the community would be, like President Buendia said earlier, I did touch on it before, creating relationships with the community. We have a large number of grandparents that are raising their students. So I want our campus to be the place that they go to find support. We're not here to tell them how to raise their grandchildren, but sometimes they need the support, they need some ideas. Maybe they just need someone to listen to them while they, you know, express their frustration or even their happiness with their grandchildren that they're raising. So my message to the community is that we are here to do this together. I can't do it by myself, teachers can't do it by themselves, and parents and grandparents certainly can't do it by themselves. So my message would be consistent. We are here to work together as a team, building those relationships with students, building the relationships, very importantly, with parents and grandparents. We're not always going to agree, but I want them to know that we are here to support. And we might not have the resources readily available, but we can certainly be resourceful and reach out and help them find those answers, or even just, again, you know, sometimes it might be a counselor, or it might just be, you know, where can I help my child find, you know, support for us to be able to get them clothes for graduation. You know, again, being a team and doing this together.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. Mr. Fox, it will now come to you. Again, I'm going to distill this down to a short question, so bear with me and I apologize. What is your message to the Thanatam Nation as you kind of market your plan, your goals for Baba Kibri Middle School and Baba Kibri High School?
My message is that I'm an individual who is very competitive, who wants the best for the people and himself where he works, and bring this secondary campus, specifically the high school. That's our flagship campus. The high school is generally the flagship campus of any district. We need to bring that campus up to a spot where when people talk about Baba Kuveri High School and Middle School, the secondary campus, that it's a safe, secure place that these kids want to come to. Take pride in who you are, where your culture came from, where you came from as an individual, and teach that to others. Teach that to the outsiders. Teach that to someone like myself. I have pride in my culture. I'm not going to deny that. And I want to give some of my New York Jewish culture to some of my students and teach them what a shmir is. Just like I want them to educate me on all the things that they feel is so beautiful and unique about the Thanatam culture, the Native American culture in general. So my message to the nation is, I'm on board. I am 100% vested. I've worked closely with TOCC and the Tohono Nation workforce, as well as the JDC, and we're all humans under the same sun. We want the best for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Hello, Mr. Fox, Ms. Leva. My name is Yolanda Pacheco. I am the Dean of Student Services at Don Otha Community College. The question I have is in regards to dual enrollment. We would really like to have many more of the high school students participate in dual enrollment. And so my question to you is, how would you promote that? How would you promote dual enrollment to the high school students, but also, more importantly, maybe, is to their parents? We would really like to see them not only get the college credit and high school credit, but also to possibly complete AGEC, Arizona General Education Curriculum. And so again, how would you promote that to the students, this excellent opportunity, but also to the parents?
Ms. Kinsey, I'm going to forgo my 30 seconds if that's okay. Or is that breaking procedure?
I would like to stick with it if possible.
Okay.
It starts now.
It starts now. How perfect is that? Dual enrollment is
No,
phenomenally...
the 30 seconds starts
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant...
No, the 30's for the wait time. All right, Mr. Fox.
Okay, as you can tell, I'm a strike while the iron's hot kind of guy. We have to take advantage of dual enrollment. That is a no-brainer. I do believe, just as you had stated, we have to get to the parents. I had at least 17 kids who went through the initial process for THO 106, the 7-week summer course, and they all got stymied by parental signatures and whatever the parents had to do. We had the parents come in. I had 2 kids there, and we still couldn't get them in. So I think the dual enrollment is there. I think somehow or another, and I don't know how, this is where we'd have to work together. How do we streamline getting these kids in there? How do we not bypass the parental guardian units, but just make it easier so that maybe it can be done online? Because we do know every kid has a computer. The dual enrollment needs to start in 9th grade. It shouldn't be an option. It should be just part of the schedule. Part of the scheduling of students is start them there and matriculate them through their senior year, just as what you guys already had put together and tried to initiate prior to COVID. I think all of the systems, all of the components are in place. It's just a matter of us taking the lead and finding out how we get these parents to sign the dang papers, because it's not the students. In my experience this past 4 months, it's not the students that aren't motivated. They are very motivated. We are great at motivating students. I mean, that's what we're here for. It's when we hit what we can't control. So if it was any easier for us to control that enrollment process, to stream it down so that maybe it can be an online registration, fully online, I think that would go far, but we can also get these guys right when they come in.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Thank you.
Again, forgive me as I will be paraphrasing your question. So you had a question from the Dean of Student Services at Don Otha Community College, Yolanda Pacheco. The question was, how would you promote dual enrollment and also that end goal of having students complete their AGEC to high school students and also to their parents? Your time starts now.
I would be sneaky and I would get the parents involved first, because then they can encourage their students. The way we would do that, parent nights, making sure that during parent nights, we are inviting TOCC to come to our schools and be at the entrance with whoever is greeting at the door. That's one of the ways that I can think of doing it. Through the AVID classes, a lot of our students that the majority of our students are in AVID because they have a little bit more of a focus of being college and career ready. So starting with those students, having that teacher understand what dual enrollment looks like. As an avid teacher, when I was at the secondary, I wish now, like I think back, I wish I would have had more information about how we can get our students in those dual enrollment classes. So making sure that those teachers that are firsthand with our students are understanding, are talking the language, are helping our students prepare. How do we do that? Again, by building those relationships with TOCC. All of us sitting down at the table, we're not all experts in everything, but TOCC is an expert at what they do. We're experts at our students. How do we reach out to the community so that students are more aware what dual enrollment is? And if we're talking about 3-year plans, I would say we start with our juniors and seniors through the AVID class, making sure that we have members from TOCC coming into those classrooms and talking to those students, and then giving them the information that they need, and even modeling for them what it looks like. Maybe having our former students who are at TOCC, who may have been AVID or may have not been AVID, but coming back and showing them, look, I was in that seat that you're in, and now here's where I am, and you can be doing the same thing. So it all comes down to building the relationships.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. I'm like,
Sorry.
that's okay. I just,
Hello? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jay. I'm the recruiter at the Northern Community College. And so my question is on behalf of our dual enrollment coordinator. So the question is, what is your experience with working with higher education institutions to help students learn all of their options when choosing or looking at post-secondary education?
all right, Ms. Leyva, this one will come to you first, but you will have 30 seconds, which starts now.
All right, Ms. Lynn, your time starts now. Okay, so my experience working with higher ed is from being in the classroom. Again, like I said before, I was an avid teacher. I worked with senior students, and I worked with the counselor. I worked with Ms. Kinsey, so that we could get our students to understand what they needed. So what are the tests that you need to take? What are the grades that you need? If you're already looking at a specific career, helping the students understand what the needs are, what they need to have in place so that they can then move on to higher education. And understanding and being humble that I don't have all the answers, but being able to go out and find those answers for our students. Can we create a program where our students, not just in AVID, but in all of our juniors and seniors, what are we doing to help them understand what is needed so that they can go on to higher education? My experience is limited to my personal experience as a student. It's limited to being a parent with a child that was going to college and all that is required from you as a parent, from your child. So at the least, I can at least connect with parents on that level and then be in a position where I can go out and find the answers for them, and again, work with our higher ed that is available to our students. TOCC, Pima Community College, the University of Arizona, bringing in all of those resources so that we can get the answers that our students need and understand why higher education is important for their future.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. Mr. Fox.
Okay, well,
Jay's going to read the question again.
thank you.
Okay. So the question is, like this? Okay. Sorry.
Same.
What is your experience with working with higher education institutions to help students learn all their options when choosing a post-secondary education?
Your time starts now.
Thank you. Well, in the past, I've actually worked for some higher ed institutions such as Pima Community College, Brookline College. So I understand the process of enrollment, and I understand the needs and the motivations and characteristics that the individual has to have in order to be successful. We all have those. We just have to make sure that they're brought out by certain people. Working with higher ed organizations it's hand in hand. So that means, just as Ms. Leva said, have you guys at the events. Have college day. We've taken our kids to your school and we've toured your pretty cool dorms and whatnot, and I hope we motivated a couple. But the experience of working with them is just getting out and getting on their campus and meeting the players that are on those campuses, whoever they are, whoever the organizer or the facilitator of the Mesa event at GCU, it's get them there and then sneak off and take these kids around and let them see all the great things that there are. Higher ed students, adult learners, our high school students are pretty much adult learners. They're much more mature than we were, and they're much more immature than we were due to all of the influences that are coming in via digital and media. But they are adult learners. They want to know what they need to do, when they need to do, what do I have to do in order to get this grade? And we need to remember that when we're teaching them and structuring our classes, because that's what they're going into. That's exactly what they go into when they go into college. What do I need to do to get this grade? And when does it need to be done? Because they're thinking now on a little more mature level where they're actually strategizing on how to get through. Thank you.
Mr. Fox.
Skugdash, Anyamanjig Anna Marie Stevens. I am the transition coordinator for Donna Occam Community College. I have a question to piggyback off the last question. So it's been a couple of years since you had a counselor to help students who are getting ready to leave the campus and explore different careers and colleges. What are your plans to make sure that you are either hiring someone in this position or working with the staff that are on campus to make sure that those things are being taken care of for students? Because we do see students who are falling through the cracks.
Your 30 seconds starts now. All right, Mr. Fox, this one will come to you first.
Okay, let me paraphrase that real quick. You want to know what we can do with the staff we have or the staff that's coming in order to promote getting kids over to TOCC or higher education. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, or into a career.
Or into a career. Communication. Telling them, meaning our staff, this is what we're going to do. Counselors, this is what you're going to do. Talk about a non-negotiable. There's your non-negotiable right there. I think I went right to students. Non-negotiable should be is we're pushing this. This is what we are doing, and we're going to have a quota, just like the old days. I need X percent of 9th grade. I need them in here, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and make it a requirement, because the ball gets dropped many times by us. Like you said, falling through the cracks, maybe being stretched too thin. But even if we're stretched too thin, this is not the area to have a lapse. This is the one area that's going to, statistically, data shows that when you get into that post-secondary work at an earlier age, well, guess what? You tend to achieve more at a later age. You tend to be where you want to be when you're 25, 30, as opposed to starting when you're 25, 30. So I think that we work with our staff by saying, this is it, we're doing this. And like Ms. Leva said, call the parents. Don't tell them, don't ask them, tell them. You've got an incredibly bright young person here. We're putting them in 9th grade into an art class at TOCC, and this is the program they're going to take, and this is what they're going to get when they're done with it. And we're just going to educate them on the benefits and strictly just the good planning, the time management, the efficiency, the cost analysis of what this district is actually offering these kids with TOCC. So how we get it out there is we make it happen, and that starts with the principal.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Would you like me to paraphrase? I sure can. All right, I'll sure try. All right, so the question was from board member Stevens, who is the transition coordinator at TOCC. And her question, essentially when you boil it down, was what are your plans to ensure that you are either hiring or completing the duties of a college and career advisor within the campus? Tom starts now.
So first of all, starting by making sure it's in our budget. I know that in previous years, we used to have someone that was strictly dedicated to a college and career counselor. And that in itself, we all know, is a huge job. So recruiting, stealing people from other careers that enjoy working with students, and then training them on the way, we do things at Babo Kivari, but also using the resources that are available to us. So first and foremost, making sure that, I don't know what the budget looks like, but making sure it's still in the budget, because we can train our current counselors, we can train our assistant principals, we can train, other teachers that are in the classroom, but when you have 3 or 4 different people doing the same job, sometimes the students get a different message, they don't get all of the information. So I understand why you're asking that question, because that job is very, very important. There's so much that goes. I honestly learned so much from our college and career counselor just for my own personal, for my child. So the fact that that job has been open for over a year means that we have a priority in making sure that we find someone that wants to work with students and wants to help them move forward. How do we do that? We use what our resources are, social media. I'm not embarrassed to go out and steal someone from another company and say, hey, look, this fits your personality. What do you think of coming to do this job? Because it can be a fun job. It's not for everyone. You're not in the classroom. You're still working with students. Just using what we have available. And in the meantime, training people.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva.
Hello. Piggybacking again, how and when would you create those opportunities for the staff to train and have, I guess lessons from their superiors to maybe learn these things? I know there's a lot of staff who have duties as needed, added on their role as aside from what they already do. How would you provide the training necessary for the staff in order to achieve the goals that you are trying to?
Your 30 seconds to think starts now. Leyva, it will come to you first.
Am I allowed to ask a clarifying question? So when you talk about opportunities for staff to learn, do you mean like the extra duties or to learn what they're currently doing right now? Sorry.
So as on all staff, is duties as needed. They're already doing so much, so then the training necessary, how would you provide the training for them to complete the goals that you are trying to complete, such as how they said for the guidance counselor, how they already do sort of help the students, but they also have a bunch of things that they already deal with aside from college career readiness, as an example.
Okay.
All right, starting our 30 seconds now. All right, Ms. Leyva, it comes to you first. Your time starts now.
Okay, so first and foremost, I would fight to hire someone first, obviously. The idea of training like our guidance counselor and anyone else in the school would be as a plan B, because the reality is our students need to have this information. Earlier I mentioned if in my 3-year plan, we wouldn't start with all students immediately. So we would start with maybe the seniors, because those are the ones that are gonna be going out into college the soonest. So identifying as a team, what are our priorities? If our priority is just graduating students, then that's where the guidance counselor needs to be. But I believe that we need to take it to the next step. And that is not just graduating those seniors, but preparing them so that they can go to college, get an associate's, go out into the workforce, whatever it is that they deem necessary for themselves. But as far as training provided for those, extra duties, it just comes with identifying our priorities. So if we decide this is a priority, then we all need to come together as a team and say, how much of this pie are you willing to help pick up so that we can get our students moving forward? It's a team effort. And that includes, if I become the principal, that includes me as well.
Thank you, Ms. Leyva. Destiny, I'm going to try to distill your question, but again, Thank you. So Mr. Fox, the question from Destiny Robles, the attendance clerk at secondary campus, was how and when would you create the time to train staff on the things assigned to them, kind of those extra duty things that are outside of their primary role?
Okay, well, I think career and college should be ingrained in everyday conversations with our students. Every day it should somehow or another, you should work that into your conversation. What are you going to do? What do you like? Have them do like an aptitude survey, a true colors, so to speak. True colors tells you what your personality type is and what careers you may excel in. Get them to know themselves first. But as far as training, and again, ingraining this into the culture of the school is the principal's job. But as far as training or making them a little more apt at what they're doing, if we subscribe and use with fidelity beyond textbooks, after what I saw last week and after what I've seen it do for my own child and her teachers at the Ville School District, there's an hour a day for planning that's just been taken away. There's lesson planning gone, there's agenda, there's scope and sequence, there's the YAG. It all goes away if used beyond textbook. It's geared for our school, it's built for our school. And it is proven through years of use and many, many a user that it works. So we free up right there a 50-minute or however long that scheduled time frame is for planning. Planning is now something it should be something of the past, because use what works and don't reinvent any wheels.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
I think they're doing a phenomenal job. Let's give them a hand, please. Let's keep them going. They've been non-stop answering amazing questions, and we have another one by our amazing Pearl.
My name is Pearl. I'm a parent, a grandparent, and a staff member. I would just like to ask, how often would you come out to monitor the kids during lunch, because no one is never out there? Would you have time to go out and monitor those kids?
I love the questions. How are you going to hold yourself accountable and the kids accountable and balancing your schedule? Great question, Pearl.
30 seconds. Mr. Fox, it'll come to you.
It only took 13 tries. I've got it figured out now.
All right, Mr. Fox, your time starts now.
Okay, so as far as monitoring goes, it's a whole school job. I think that if anyone, for some of you guys that know me, the last place you generally find me, unless the board reporters do, is in my office. I'm constantly out of my office. I'm constantly, sometimes too often on Miss McKay's campus, but I'm always in one of our classrooms. When I did spend a few months up at secondary last year as kind of just a guest, I was out there for passing periods. That's what an administrator and their administrative team does. They're in the cafeteria. They're pushing the broom. They're wearing the blue gloves and cleaning the tables. None of us in this room is above doing a little bit of work for the better of all, the whole system. So I think that your question towards the monitoring is you have to be out there in order to monitor. And you have to look at your campus and know your hot spots. Know where you might have some of the shenanigans going on. You know where there may not be, I can't speak for the campus and their cameras, but at a campus that large, the cameras are almost just secondary. They're almost to prove what you think you saw. And you're not going to see it if you're not out there. So the administrator, all of the principal, the assistant principals, and that administrative ILT instructional leadership team needs to be out during common times. It's really, really that simple. I don't think we put that on our teachers. If that's their lunchtime, they need to eat lunch. So you're in the cafeteria, you're on the field, you're participating, you're interacting with these kids. That's what we need to do. And if anyone saw me up there a year ago, it's exactly what I did, because I didn't know what else to do. So I was out there doing this stuff, watching baseball practice, cleaning cafeterias, picking up with my stupid little picker-upper, picking up trash. That's how you monitor.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. We said that. So our question from Ms. Pearl, who is a parent, grandparent, and also a staff member, the question was, how often would you be out and about monitoring students at lunch, passing period, and during other activities?
How often? I would do it every day, if I could. The reality is we can't always be there, but every moment that I would be available, I would be out there monitoring. I understand that every school has security and monitors, that's what they do on a daily basis. They are the experts. But in order for me to understand what they do on a daily basis, the best way for me to know is to be out there with them. It wouldn't be every day, but it would be enough to understand that, you know, what they see every day, what are they dealing with, and work together as a team so that we can address any issues that come up. So I wish I could tell you that I would be out there every single day, every passing period of the day, because when I was over there and I was a teacher, I was expected to stand at the door, and it's just good practice as a teacher to stand at the door. It would have been, you know, the leaders that I got along with the best were the ones that were out there with us. Instead of saying, you need to do this, it was more of, this is what I noticed, how can we work together to do it? And that's the kind of leader that I would want to be. Again, could I promise you that it's going to be every day? Probably not, because we do have things that we need to do on a daily basis to help run the school, but as often as I possibly could, I would be out there monitoring. Students need to know that I know them. Students need to know that they are seen. And sometimes if they know that that maybe today the principal will be out here, maybe she won't be, they're still gonna do it, but they might reconsider it for a second. And that's what we want. We want them to know that they're seen and they're heard. Not always, you know, for good reasons, but that's where we need to be.
Thank you, Ms. Laban. Any other questions?
just wanted to ask, as in your time that you've been out here in the Vanuatu Nation, what have you learned about the Vanuatu people, and where have you been on the nation, other than just on campus?
Your 30 seconds to think starts now.
Who's first? I go. Who's first? This one.
I'll double check when I check the paper. Leva, it'll come to you first. All right, Ms. Leva, your time starts now.
Okay, so I have been out here since 2014, and I have learned, where do I even start? I have learned that we have more similarities than differences. Obviously, coming from a Mexican family, I found many of the things that our family and our tradition did were things that are done here in on the Vanuatu Nation. So we have a lot more in common than we do differences. When I would hear the language, I'd be like, that kind of sounds like a Spanish word. And then, you know, learning the language. Where have I been on the nation? I have been to a couple of villages. In 2021, I consider myself very blessed that I got to be part of a team of staff members that went out to the homes of our students and presented them with their certificates. So I think the furthest west we went was, I don't want to butcher the name, Gu'uvo. And then we went up towards Casa Grande, and we went to a couple of places that we pass on the way to Tucson. I'm not going to say the names because I'm going to butcher them, but I've been to Topawa because that's where I used to go when I worked at the high school. I've also learned from our culture teachers why some of our students don't behave the way those of us coming from the city expect them to behave. And seeking out that kind of information has allowed me, I'm gonna say, to have a successful career out here, because it's a beautiful culture. The culture I come from is also beautiful, but it's been a learning experience.
Thank you, Ms. Leva. Mr. Fox, the question from Ms. Linda Carlos, who is a parent, she's also on she's a community member, and she's also on our hiring panel here, was in your time here on the Vanuatu Nation, what have you learned about the Vanuatu people, and also where on the Vanuatu Nation have you been?
Well, I've learned that it's a beautiful culture filled with very, very intrinsically beautiful people. I come from Tucson. I worked in Tucson for well over 20 years, and I mentioned it to quite a few of you in this room that these kids on this nation are very polite. You guys may not think so. Go to Naylor, go to Safford K-8. I am very impressed by our student body. From little itty-bitty ones up to my 22-year-olds, they may not be the perfect people, none of us are, but I can tell you what I've learned is they're very conscious of what they say and what they do, because I don't think they really enjoy hurting other people's feelings. That's my take from it. Maybe I'm lucky, maybe they're nice to me, all these young little people. But I found them to be very, very amiable and very communicative. You can talk and have a very deep conversation with some of these kids. Where I've been on the nation, I've been everywhere from Cockelburg to the museum right outside of Rocky Point. I have visited Guvo as well, and the directions were amazing that I got. Take a left at the truck, turn right at the tires, and I got right there. I've been out to Little Tucson, and this is just visiting students and checking on them and bringing them devices or other necessities that they need. So I'm just happy as can be where I am, and as a lifelong learner, this has been an amazing experience for me in the fact that I can now say good morning and good night in 6 languages. Just good morning and good night though, but I will get better at it. So I've learned that it's a great place to be with a deep, deep, rich culture that should be appreciated and exploited.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Any more questions? All right.
So that was a great question. I think that it's one of the questions I want to ask is, what will you do to introduce the community to your teachers that work on the nation? Because the nation is pretty big. How will you implement taking students or taking your staff out to see the community so that they can learn where the students come from?
She's counting. Gosh, that's as bad as that Yellow Submarine video where they quiet for 1 minute.
Yeah, that's getting good. All right, Mr. Fox, this one will come to you first.
I think a perfect opportunity to do that is in our all-day PDs that every school has is a couple, 3, 4 times a year. I also think it's imperative that we get out there and we see where our kids come from. What I've also learned, and I know that's the last question, but it pertains to this, is you are a beautiful community and a beautiful people, but there is a lot of pain. There is a lot of obstacles. There is a lot of things that in 25 years of education I've experienced here more than any of the other 23 years. And I don't think that if you are not from this community, if you don't experience and see where these young people live, what they do to get to school, to get up at 4:30 in the morning to walk down a dirt road to take an hour-and-a-half bus ride, that's admirable. And our teachers who don't know their students on a very intimate basis need to experience that. They need to be taught that. So get out there on PD days and listen to your kids when they come in late. Don't give them a hassle right away. Find out why they were late. They probably had done more work in the 3 hours it took them to get to school than some of us are going to do all day. So we have to just be conscious that there's a lot going on in these young people's lives. And sometimes school takes the back seat to that, and sometimes it actually needs to. Because you're not going to make gains in school until you make gains in safety and security.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Leyva, the question again from Ms. Anna Marie Stevens, the transition coordinator at TOCC, is how will you bring or introduce your staff to the community at large?
So currently, I don't know how many of you are aware, but we do provide a tour, or we used to provide a tour. Did we do it this year? Where teachers, but it's specifically for new teachers to the community, and they get to go on a tour of the nation. This is planned and executed by and with our culture teachers. So we already have some sort of system in place, but I think that you bring up a really good question. How do we provide that for teachers that maybe were hired during the pandemic when we didn't provide these tours? I know when I started back in 2014, I don't think I had a tour. So maybe providing an opportunity for teachers that are already here, either making it voluntary or mandatory, depending on when we could do it. My other suggestion would be we provide community events where the community comes to our campuses. Would it be possible for us to reach out to those villages and say, hey, how do you feel about hosting one of our community events where we provide many of the things that are needed, but we get to go out to their village and get to see what they do. So I know that we already do it, but we only do it for new teachers. So we do need to open it up for people like me who have been in the district that for some reason didn't get to do one of those tours, but then opening up those community events so that we wouldn't force it on them, but we would ask if any of the communities would like to host a community event like the ones we do on our campuses. And it gives everyone, not just the teachers, but it gives everyone, the family, the students, an opportunity to see where their friends come from. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Ms. Leiva. All right, so at this time we are going to wrap up the questions. So before we do that, I will have our live panel, our committee members, I don't know what the right word is there, but we will have them introduce themselves and their role for those of us who are tuning in online, and then whoever's missing, I will also introduce them by proxy. So we're going to start right here.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Russell. I'm the School Improvement Specialist at Bobby Secondary.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. I'm Teresa Purcell. I'm the SS teacher in the secondary.
Good afternoon, my name is Linda Carlos and I'm sitting in as a parent.
He will be back, I assure you. All right, so those of our panel members that will be joining us virtually are, we're going to run through the list here. Miss Erin Martin, who is a middle school science teacher. You will also have Miss Amanda Renegar, who is a high school English teacher. You will have Mr. Travis Listo, who is secondary security. You will have Miss Megan Haley, who is the secondary guidance counselor. And I'm missing and
Mr. Meese.
Mr. Coach Meese, who is our secondary, he's a basketball coach as well as health and PE. And then we also have board president Juan Buendia joining us as well. He is here live in the panel. So, do you want me to go through the process? Or let's give it up for our candidates. So the way that this process will go from here, because we did have some hiring committee members who were unable to be here live with us today for various reasons. We are streaming this online. They will also have access to it after the fact. And we are asking that all 9 of our original panel members review and score our candidates based on their responses. And then the committee will come together tomorrow to discuss and make their final recommendation. From there, that final recommendation, as we all know, will go to the school board, and the school board will have the final say. There will be an executive session where the school board will get to ask either of the candidates any questions that they have before making their final decision. And I think that concludes our forum for today. So let's give our beautiful candidates one more round of applause. All right, thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to end the recording and turn this mic off.